Good evening, everyone. I'm Mayor Ted Betancourt, and I'd like to call the fiscal year 2026 school committee budget meeting to order. Today is Monday, June 23rd, 2025. We are beginning our meeting tonight at 7:09 p.m. I want to thank all of you that are here today. We do have some elected officials I wanted to recognize and thank for being here from our city council. Councilor Ann Manning Martin, Councilor John Turco, Councilor Julie Daigle, and Councilor Dave Gamache. Nice to have you here. And this meeting was scheduled tonight following our meeting with the City Council for the budget review last Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. We had a budget meeting that evening, and during the course of the meeting, we heard from a number of city councilors and from members of the public giving their thoughts and opinions on the budget, and I thought it was very valuable for all of us to hear the different comments and then take that in as a school committee and make some decisions on our end before going back to the city council for a vote on the budget. I thought that would be the appropriate thing to do, to take that input and then have a discussion tonight at the meeting. Hopefully we're able to make decisions and move forward to the city council. There is a city council meeting tomorrow night scheduled on the operating budget. There also is the city side budget that needs to be reviewed, and I anticipate tomorrow that will be the case. But there also could be, depending on our actions tonight, the school budget discussion and potential vote either tomorrow night or potentially on Thursday night or at a later date, depending on, again, our actions tonight. The way I look at it in talking with our finance department and our legal department, there are a few options that we would have tonight as a school committee before moving forward. One, we could keep the same budget that we voted on previously and just move that forward and bring that back to the city council. That is one option. The second option would be to make some adjustments on our school budget. However, keep the same budget number. Whatever the budget number is would remain the same. And however, adjustments could be made and votes could be made on that budget, again, with the number staying the same. The third option would be that we would add to the budget, and that would be a cost to the taxpayer to go forward and add to the budget. If we do add to the budget, my feeling is that a public hearing would have to be had at that time, scheduled. It would be 7 days public notice before a vote could be taken, or a hearing could be had and a vote could be taken. That's if we add to the budget, and that would have to be the case. I do not have any intention of adding to the budget today. I believe that we have a number that we have to work within, and that is the number that we would move forward on, depending on our discussion tonight. So I have no intention of adding to that budget and putting forth additional increases to our tax payers and our residents. However, those would be the three options that we would potentially be looking at and need to make a decision on today. So with that, I would open it up and turn it over to Dr. Vidala. We do have our full school committee here. Thank you, everybody, as well as our Superintendent, Dr. Josh Vidala, our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Kelly Chase, Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Mark Higgins, and our School Business Manager, Mr. Sam Rippon. Our minutes tonight are being taken by our Recording Secretary, Laura Bowe, and we are broadcast live on Peabody TV. Mr. Hockman?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we start, and I know we don't always do this at budget meetings, but I'd like to say the Pledge of Allegiance, particularly in light of the recent events, and then I'd also like to have a moment of silence for all our service members who were either overseas or domestic in harm's way.
Thank you very much for bringing that forward. So we can start with a moment of silence, please, and then we'll follow that up with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Mr. Hockman. Okay, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much for that. And we'll now turn it over to Dr. Vidala for his comments and open up the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we received quite a bit of information and some questions regarding our current structure And I have to say that I was a little bit disappointed on Tuesday with the process that happened. Typically, our city council is very collaborative. They often reach out. We speak regularly. I had reached out a week before the budget meeting, and only one city councilor came in to meet with me and express some questions. Based on that meeting, I brought some information which was not received from the city council. That's not typically how we do things. That was a new process for me, and I'm hoping that as we move forward, we can continue to be collaborative and work together. So I have some information that I'd like to share. I think there was some incorrect information or some misperceptions that were out there that I'd like to try to address. In years past, I found that the council was very collaborative, and they asked a lot of questions. They were curious. They were looking to understand. I didn't get that feeling on Tuesday night. There were not many questions, so I'm hoping that we can, start some more discussions. As I think as elected officials and as city leaders, we need to do that. I think we need to work together. This was a very challenging budget. I think the school committee did the best job that they could here, and I was presenting a budget that was unanimously voted on. There was quite a bit of discussion about the Peabody Public Schools being top-heavy. I've heard this in other communities as well. This slide that you see here is a comparison of Peabody to the state. There are three types of leadership structure that DESE recognizes. One is district administrators, the second one is district instructional leaders, and the third is school leaders. And if you look at this chart, you can see that Peabody is has significantly less school leaders, district instructional leaders, and district administration than the state. What this dark black line here represents for Peabody Public Schools is 1 district administrator per 1,000 students, compared to 3 per 1,000 at the state level. And you can see these are our curriculum directors here in gray compared to the state, and these are our school leaders compared to the state. If we look at gateway cities, and I've provided a handout to the committee. If you look at the back page, there's a stapled sheet, and I want to thank Dr. Chase for putting this together. Looking at 10 other gateway cities, and understanding that Peabody as a gateway city is much more diverse than a typical community, and we have more needs. And so we look at the district enrollments from Salem, Waltham, Peabody, Chelsea, Attleboro, Malden, Methuen, Revere, Everett, and Haverhill. And they range from 3,800 students to 7,800 students, and Peabody being towards the lower end with about 5,700, almost 6,000 students. In terms of central office, we have 6, and you see that the other communities have 10, 11, 8, 9, 8, 7, 10, 15, and 10. There's been a lot of discussion about our assistant superintendents. Peabody has 2, Salem has 2, Waltham has 3, Chelsea has 2, Attleboro only has 1, Malden has 4, Methuen has 3, Revere has 3, Everett has 3, and Haverhill has 2 positions that are unique, but they're cabinet-level positions. They have an executive director of student services and a chief teaching and learning. That basically serves as their assistant superintendent for teaching and learning. So if you look at the same radar report from DESE, this is how we stack up against the 5 gateway cities with the lowest enrollments on this previous page. The first 5, Salem, Waltham, Peabody, Chelsea, and Attleboro. And you'll notice that Salem has the most administrators, followed by what is the state average. Chelsea's about at the state average. Waltham and Attleboro slightly below. And you notice that Peabody has the least amount of administrators for these gateway cities. And I think it's important because context matters. And I think it's really important to consider where Peabody has been. And, I know that there's comparisons to other districts, but typically I prefer to look at where we've been. And using FY19 as a base year, this was pre-COVID. If you look at the areas of central administration, principals, Unit A, which is our teachers, and Unit B, which is our administrators. In FY19, we had 5 central office administrators, 10 principals for our 10 schools, and 41 Unit B members. And all of those people would supervise 489 teachers. Over time, And since I came in here in FY '21, we've significantly added to our teaching force. We've added 53 teachers. I believe in teachers. I was a teacher. I'm a teacher at heart. And I believe we should have teachers in front of kids. We've added 53 teachers since I've come on. And in that time, we've reduced our administrative staff by 11 FTEs in Unit B, and we've added one in central administration. So the net change is 10. We've subtracted 10 administrators, and we've asked them to do more work. So if you'll look over here, this is just another way of viewing it. There's 489 teachers, and now we have 542. So, we're adding teachers, and we still have to supervise those teachers. We have to supervise 542, but we're doing it with 10 less staff. So what were the positions in 2019, 2020 in Unit B? I went through the contract, and there were 17 positions. There was an administrator of instruction, there was an administrator of staff development. Those 2 positions are now done by our assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction. There was a director of Peabody Learning Academy and a SAC CHS program administrator. There's one person doing those 2 jobs and overseeing Peabody Prep now. So we're consolidating. We had a special ed high school coordinator, a district therapeutic elementary coordinator, and out-of-district liaison. Those 3 positions are now taken on by the team chairs, and the team chairs are spreading that work amongst themselves. In that budget, there was an ELA curriculum coordinator, a math curriculum coordinator, a director of teaching and learning for integrated technology. All of those positions are now done by that one position of director of teaching, learning, and integrated technology, or director of English language arts. In that budget, we had a kindergarten coordinator and an early childhood coordinator. Now we just have one early childhood director. We did have an English learner coordinator. Now she oversees world languages, and positions have been, different things have been added to her plate. And I will say that English language learner requirements have changed. There's a lot more reporting structure that has gone in. I also noticed in that contract we had school psychologists, school adjustment counselors, and BCBAs. So we had Unit A positions that were getting paid Unit B money, and now all of those positions are in Unit A. In addition, we also had, over the past 5 or 6 years, a director of community partnerships and Peabody Prep that is now kind of folded into the Peabody Learning Academy and the CHS principal. We've eliminated the director of teaching and learning for STEM. At one time, we had an assistant director of special education. That position is no longer. In this budget, we eliminated the center school assistant principal and one team chair. Those were both online 2 years ago. We did not hire them this year because we did not have the center school, but bringing the center back, we have not filled that. So overall, there were 19 admin positions that have been absorbed by others since FY19. The net reduction for Unit B was 11 FTEs. In my time here, as a former special ed teacher, I've really tried to push more support for our students. And so if you look at the following slide, in FY19, we went through the budget, and we looked at every school and the number of special ed teachers that we had. In FY19, the Brown had 14, and FY26, they have 15. The Burke had 6, now they have 10. And if you look all the way down, we've gone from 63 special ed teachers to 84 in the past 5 years. It's an increase of 21 special ed teachers. We had 10.6 school adjustment counselors in FY19, and now we have 20. We had 17 guidance counselors, and now we have 19. So we've increased our counselors by 11.4. These are items that the school committee has supported over the past 5 years because they believe in student support and they believe in mental health. And these are positions that are currently in the budget and remain in the budget. And I think that this shows what the school committee values, that they've added these positions since FY19. There was also some talk about how our schools are failing. And our schools certainly have some improvement. But I want to show this slide because in FY19, we had 2 schools requiring assistance. And DESE puts a percentile rank 1 to 99 based on where a school is. And I like to try to get schools within the 40 to 60 range because that's solidly within the average range. And the Brown School, Burke School, you know, they were in the 20s, Carroll, 20s, 35 for the center, 39 for McCarthy, 31 for South, 24 for Welch, 41 for West, 21 for Higgins, and 19 for PVMHS. This was pre-COVID. This is where our schools were before the pandemic. Only one of those schools was in the 40 to 60 range, and 2 of the schools were requiring assistance. Every school in the Commonwealth dipped in 21, and 22, and 23. It was the effect of COVID. And the goal has been to create a check mark that we talked about, is that where we started pre-COVID, there was going to be a dip, and we want to make sure that we're better than we were before COVID. And in last year's school accountability, 7 of our 10 schools are better off than they were in 2019. We have 6 schools in that 40 to 60 range, and we have 3 schools that were affected more by the pandemic than any other school. And they're our most needy schools, the Carroll, the Welch, and the high school. They're our most diverse schools, and they're taking a little bit longer to recover from the pandemic. But our schools are showing dramatic increases. Our Burke School's up 18%. The Center School up 9% as a school of recognition. The South School up 9%. Our schools are doing better than they were in 2019, with the exception of a couple outliers. And when we get our 2025 data, I'm sure that we're going to continue to see this upward trend. As a district, in 2019, our accountability percentile was 40. In 23, the first year that they did accountability after COVID, we saw the COVID dip. And then from 23 to 24, our district went up 10 points. We increased to 45, exceeding where we were in 2019. So overall, I do take a little bit, I got taken aback a little bit by hearing that our schools are failing, or our schools are, you know, I think that's a narrative that we do not want to put out there. Our schools are better than they were in 2019, and we'll continue to make them better. Now, in terms of this year's budget, what the committee voted unanimously on was a $99 million budget. And this was a snapshot in time. And our committee has always worked with the line items within the budgeted number to make moves. During the school year, if we need an ELL teacher here or a special ed teacher there, I come to the committee, and the committee supports it, and we vote it. So there was some discussion at the council meeting about our ELL staff and what the staff ratio was. And this chart was shared to me by Councilor Peach, and I appreciate the work that she did to put this together. And every summer we look at our staff and what they need. Our ELL students are on all different levels. Level 1 students require a significant amount of support. Level 4 students require maybe 30 minutes a week. So the ELL teacher-to-student ratio can sometimes be misleading depending on the level of students. However, seeing that the Center School and the South School are lower, they have lower ratios, we could move an ELL teacher from each of those schools to our most needy schools of the Welch and the Carroll. And going back to this slide here, where the Welch and the Carroll need additional support, I would be supportive of just reallocating some of those ELL teachers to provide more support for the Carroll and the Welch. If that's the will of the committee, these are things that we could do normally. We didn't need to change a vote for this. However, if we wanted to reflect that in the budget, we could do that, and we could do that tonight, or we could do that during the normal course of business. Another piece that I've really been reflecting on is the Higgins, the 8th grade cluster. And this was a tough one for all of us. This was not a reduction that we wanted to see. We were looking at a $3 million shortfall at the time. And now as we got to this number, and we really combed through, I do see value in bringing the Higgins cluster back, if that is the will of the committee. Having 5 clusters in FY26 will reduce class size. It will also provide more opportunities for meaningful relationships and student and staff connections. So I anticipate this would cost about $300,000, and we could fund this with our center school. We could move 2 positions from the center school. And as we look at it, we had projected enrollment in May, around May 1st when we were doing the budget. There was about 25 students in grade 2, which is too much for one teacher. But since then, we've had 3 students that have requested to stay at their current schools with their friends as they found that came out, and now we're down to 22. So I do think it's reasonable to have 22 students in the second grade class. We have that in our other buildings, and we could reallocate that staff member to the Higgins and bring back one of the 8th grade teachers. Similarly, in grade 4, we had 31 students on May 1st, and since then, we've had 7 students request to stay at their school with their friends once they found out who was remaining. One class of 24, I think, is reasonable. We have that size in other buildings, and we could reallocate that unfilled position. It's not posted right now. We could move that, and that would bring back half the cluster. And you may recall a number of years ago, there was an offset put in the budget for turnover savings or high out, low in, basically when we have retirements or resignations. And typically that is used, that money is used to sort of cover deficits that we have if we go over in workman's comp, or if we go over in health insurance or things like that. It's used to balance the budget at the end. However, I did notice a few years ago there was an offset in the budget of $150,000. If the committee would want to take those turnover savings, that could save the other 2 positions. We could bring back the Higgins cluster, and it would still be budget neutral. So I leave it to the committee. Thank you for listening to my conversation at the beginning, and we have these 2 options if the committee wants to make any moves within the current appropriated budget. I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dr. Vidala, for that information. I'd open it up now to the school committee for comments, questions. Mr. Amico?
Thank you through the chair. Dr. Vidala, thank you for that report and that timely information. You know, I want to thank the City Council and other elected officials who are here, and parents and teachers. Congratulations, teachers. You have one more day, and you're off for a well-deserved summer. Well-deserved. So I wanted to speak a little bit about our gateway cities and Peabody and our relationship to the administrators and how many we have in central office and so forth. But I just wanted to start by saying I'm proud to be a teacher. I'll be starting my 25th year in September, and I've had the pleasure of teaching. I've also had the pleasure of meeting a lot of teachers across the state, North Shore, South Shore, Central Mass, all over the state. You know, teachers can relate to this. You go to conferences, you go to meetings, you're down the Cape on vacation, you run into teachers, and it seems like every district, every city, for the most part, has the same challenges. And more so over the last 8 years. I want to say 2018 was that year. For some reason, right before the pandemic, about 2 years before the pandemic, things started to change. Student needs were greater. Mental health started to become more of an issue. Vaping became more of an issue. Drug use became more of an issue. And as of late, even those students who need medication can't get it. So that, you know, on the other end, they're getting that issue. Phones. In 2001, when I first started teaching, kids barely had flip phones. Some kids had the big brick phones, if you could remember those big Nextel brick phones. And then all of a sudden, every one of these kids had one of these little weapons right here, okay? And to hear that, you know, we're comparing class sizes or sizes of administration to 2002, 2004. Over the last 7 years, education has changed more than probably the last 25 years. Anyone who's been in the classroom as long as I have will tell you that. So, you know, just looking at these numbers here, I just want to say, yeah, perception is that we are top-heavy in administration, but every district in the state is in the same situation, and certainly every district that is related to the gateway cities, which is 26 cities across the state, are all in the same categories. And I thank you, Dr. Vidal, through the chair, for putting that up there. In addition, MCAS is still around. Teacher evaluations are, you know, across the state. You run into a teacher anywhere, they're talking about evaluations, they're talking about MCAS, they're talking about state initiatives, they're talking about DESE initiatives. So all these things have come into play. Not to mention over the last 15 years, you know, or 20 years, 9/11, the Great Recession, the pandemic in 2020. So all these things have spiraled out of control, and now we're here in 2025. So to look at what we have here in Peabody, and Dr. Vidala is right, you know, people want to attack us individually, that's fine. But attacking the city, attacking our school system, our teachers work way too hard to hear that we're failing. These are numbers right here. We're not failing. Okay, we're actually improving, and we're improving despite, you know, some challenges. So I'm proud to be on the school committee. I'm proud to be part of this group. And yeah, we're going to have a few people who disagree that, you know, we're the most rotten people around, or our schools are failing. But you know what? They're not. And we have teachers here that prove it. You know, they care. They're always here. They're always dedicated. We have a great group of parents. We have great PTOs. So those people who think we're failing, keep thinking we're failing, but we're moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miko. Any other comments or questions at this time? Mrs. Dunn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Dr. Vidala. Dr. Vidala, I want to thank you for providing all of this information. This information is truly eye-opening, I'm sure, for most people, because there's the mantra of top-heavy, top-heavy, top-heavy. Showing our comparison to the cities that everybody else has talked about is very interesting. Showing how our students are improving is very helpful. And showing the change in the number and increases in teachers in the classroom, as well as counselors in the schools, is extremely helpful. Because one of the things that I spoke about last week at the city council meeting, and I spoke very briefly about it, but it really made me think, a lot of people have come into this conversation in the past few months. We, as a school committee and as a school district, have been having this conversation for many years. And there are people, me included, who can remember when we had a superintendent. That was it. We got an assistant superintendent, then we got rid of the assistant superintendent. We brought them back. Continuously, over all of the years, we were told over and over and over again that we needed additional administrative support for this school district. And while I don't have those numbers, we had a lot more students back then. And we were having a lot of trouble being able to implement new programs that were designed to help our students, to raise scores, to change the whole way everybody was teaching, which in itself is an incredible feat, and I give everyone credit for that. But it took a lot of time and planning, and it took a lot of money, and we did it piece by piece. And honestly, last year was the first time I felt comfortable and said, we've finally reached the point we were supposed to be at 20 years ago. And now, everyone wants to tear that apart. And I understand, because people are fighting for resources in the classroom. Believe me, I've been in meetings here until 2 in the morning fighting for resources in the classroom. We'll probably do that again. I hope we don't, but I'm ready. But the thing is, these pieces of information, I hope, will help everyone understand why we're where we are right now, what it took to get to this point. This didn't happen overnight. It was done with a lot of thought and a lot of struggle. We would get ahead and then have to cut. We would have something wonderful that we were really excited about, and the next year have to take it away. That's the nature of schools, that's the nature of budgets, that's the nature of just public funding. I would love to see smaller class sizes for every classroom in this city. And that's something I think we're going to work on, and I appreciate Dr. Vidala explaining that there are things we will do as we go forward when we see where the students actually land in September. There are always adjustments being made. I am happy to see the thought and the work that went into figuring out how we can bring back the 8th grade cluster. I think it's needed. That's really something that will be able to help a lot of students and teachers. But I do want to tell you I appreciate all of this documentation, because I think it fills in a lot of what people probably didn't realize. And you only went back to 2019, and we could go back to 2004 and show, or even further back, to show how different things are. Things are different now because education is different now. If you want to look back in different reports and dig through all the times that we were criticized, you will see one of the biggest problems was lack of administrative support for the programs we were putting in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Comments or questions? Any other committee members have anything at this time? Mr. Ackman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome to everyone that's here tonight. It's always good to have a full room. It's always to have more people better to have more people participate in government than less people. So it's always good to see you. Some of you participate online or in remote fashions because it's a little more convenient in times, and that's fantastic too. But it's good to see you. Dr. Vidala, thank you for the information tonight. I was more than a little upset with the manner in which you were treated at the city council meeting last Tuesday. You're a department head for the largest department in the entire city, with the most employees, the most people under you, if we count employees and children, by far. And I didn't think it was a fair to be undressed the way you were in a public session. I know your door is always open. I text you all the time. I call you frequently. If you're not available, you tell me when you are available. If you can't take my call, you get back to me as quickly as you can. I stop by your office, sometimes announced, more often unannounced, because there's work to be done, right? There's work to be done in the public sector, and we do it mostly before we get to meetings, so that we can have efficient meetings, so that we can accomplish our goals, so that we can keep improving our product. And we're not perfect. We're far from perfect. If we were perfect, we can just copy the blueprint and they can do away with us, and they can just follow that blueprint from here to the end of time. But I think you're not perfect either, so I don't want to give that impression, but I support you. And I would have preferred if the questions that were presented to you in a manner in which you had an opportunity to have conversations with the counselors who posed those questions. And I'm not saying that those questions were inappropriate, or I'm not saying that they weren't unwarranted. I'm just saying that the way in which I'd prefer to govern and to lead is to work together, right? Work with people who have more information than me about certain things, and not just react to concerns that we're hearing from constituents. And we all hear concerns from constituents, and we talk to each other. I mean, Councilor Gamache and I had a conversation before this meeting because a constituent in his ward had a concern, and I brought it to him, because that's what we do. We talk to each other. I didn't get in front of the city council and said, Councilor Gamache, and this is just by way of example, you know, you're doing an awful job as a ward councilor. This person needs this, and this person needs that. You're doing, you know, I would never do that to you. And I think you're a good board councilor, but I would never do that to you. And I thought that that's the way some city councilors treated Dr. Vidala last Tuesday night, and I didn't think that was fair. I'm going to get off that soapbox. We're in a precarious position right now. So the academic in me says, City Council votes our budget up or down. They don't get to line item veto our budget. If they don't like our budget, let them vote it down. And then we come back to the drawing board and we decide what priorities we want to take as a school committee, because that's our job. That's what the people elected us to do. They didn't elect the City Council to determine what the school department budget, how it's going to be allocated. They elected the City Council to furnish us with a figure, with a budget in terms of how much money we get to spend in allocation. We get to decide how to spend that. So we're in a precarious position legally, because I don't want to set a precedent every time the City Council has a disagreement with how we're running the schools, that they're going to send our budget back to us and hold it over our head. The pragmatist in me says what Dr. Vidal has laid out in terms of a compromise, what he's laid out in terms of a path moving forward, is reasonable. So I don't know where I'm going tonight, because that academic in me, boy, I don't want to set a precedent. I don't want to be the first school committee in the city of Peabody or maybe the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that has to come back to work on a school budget after the City Council decides that they're not happy with the way we're running. The electorate decides if they're happy with the way we run the school department, not the City Council. And we should be working together with the City Council, but the City Council elected not to do that. They elected to make this a public matter and to undress our superintendent, our department head, in front of the entire city, in front of the entire state. And I don't like that. So I don't know where I'm going tonight. I know we've had conversations. And I'll tell you, one city councilor reached out to me before Tuesday night's meeting to talk about the budget, one of 11. And not every city councilor spoke, so I don't want to put it on the entire city council. Not every city councilor spoke at Tuesday night's meeting. So in terms of our budget, I voted for the budget. I compromised on some things. We've had conversations, Dr. Vidal, over the years about some of the things that I thought we can consolidate, and you were responsive to that. At one point when you got here, we had a director of the Peabody Prep, we had a director of the Peabody Learning Academy, and we had a director of the community school. And we were going through some times where we had to make some adjustments because we just didn't have the ability to afford all three of those positions. And the handout you gave us today clearly articulates that you consolidated those into one position. And there's one person in our school district who leads all three of those areas. We had to give a little stipend to some people because they became more of a leadership role in some of those areas because we needed to accomplish things. So you are responsive when we do need to make changes. In addition, we do get to adjust our budget, adjust the allocation of our budget during the course of the school year. To think that our budget is stagnant for the 12 months in which it operates is ridiculous. City Council's budget isn't stagnant for 12 months when it operates. The police department's budget isn't stagnant. The fire department, nobody's budget. Businesses, private sector budgets, household budgets aren't stagnant. My kid needs new tires on the car. I didn't anticipate it. I didn't budget for it. I'm not going to not get my kid new tires. We're getting new tires. It's not in the budget, but we allocate for it. So maybe we don't go out to dinner one night, a month, so that we readjust because we need to get things done. We have kids moving to the district all the time. By the way, I want to recognize our special education director, Crompton's here too, also who I support. I know there's been a lot thrown on her in the last couple of weeks. I know that there are people who have concerns about certain programs within the district, and we hear you. And to think that this school committee in particular, I've been here 16 years, I've worked with some bad school committees, I've worked with some bad school committee members, not this group. This group has been together for a while, and We were the first district in the Commonwealth to have in-person learning, hybrid learning during COVID, because we believe in students, we believe in teachers, we believe in our administration, we believe that we're able to educate our kids, we believe we're able to keep them safe, we believe in what we have and what we've been trying to build. The Department of DESE, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, continues to throw unfunded mandates at us. Why do we need more administrators? Do I think we can do without an administrator or two? I think my position's pretty well known on that. But I respect the administrative team that says DESE's continuing to throw more demands upon us. The state and grants that we receive continue to throw more demands upon us. You know, I can go on for, you know, I think as the mayor says at graduation speeches, I can go on for days and weeks about the accomplishments of students that graduated from Peabody Public Schools. I can go on and on for hours and days as to why we shouldn't adjust this budget. And I'm not advocating for that, but I can go on for days and weeks. And again, I don't even know where I'm falling on this right now, because like I said, the academic in me doesn't want to set that. I think in certain other areas that we have to deal with in terms of grievances and collective bargaining agreements, I don't want to set a past practice, right? I want to be able to put a budget out there that accomplishes what we believe is good and best with what we're given. I also don't want to raise taxes. Mr. Mayor, I said to you the other day, don't give me any more money. I don't want to raise taxes. I'm talking to people all over the city. The biggest concern is their taxes. I have senior citizens that are saying, do I pay the real estate taxes, or do I pay for heat, or do I pay for medication? I have disabled veterans that I'm talking to who are saying, I can't afford the increase in real estate taxes anymore. It's a big burden. There's a big burden going across the city. We do have, and one of the things I thought was thoughtful for the city council is recognizing we do have a major expenditure coming in the near future. This high school that we've, thanks to Ms. Griffin Dunn and her committee, we've moved along in another step in that process. So congratulations to you for your hard work and your committee. But we're going to have a major expenditure coming along in the next couple of years, and we're getting close to that levy capacity. And, you know, for that reason alone, I don't want to talk about more money. In addition to that, the timing of it, I don't want to get into a budget that we're getting a 1/12 budget, although I will say a 1/12 budget this year in particular isn't so bad. There's no CBAs that are signed yet. There's no increases that are going to get impacted if we decide that we want to go back to the drawing board and go to work on this budget a little bit more. We don't need to knee-jerk this. We don't need to react to maybe an overzealous city council that some of whom work harder on the school budget now than they did when they were on the school committee. But I'll leave that up to the committee. I'm one of 5 votes. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hockman. I did want to note that the city council, I think, was prepared to vote that evening. I asked for the courtesy of holding the vote, kind of tabling the vote, because I felt that there was some information that was provided that I thought we should digest and think about and discuss. So I was appreciative that it was the council did unanimously vote to table the vote to allow us to kind of talk some things through. And I did want to note that because that was a request that I made to them, and I did appreciate that. So I did want to note that at this moment. Okay, I'll open it up. Mr. Olympio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Dr. Vidala, for putting together this spreadsheet. As you know, I'm a numbers person, and you know, my head's been so much in the weeds of just this year. And I listen to people that talk, listen to the parents, the teachers, other elected officials, and I take to heart what they say. And certainly the more you hear from people, the more you see what's going on the ground. You make changes, you adjust your way of thinking. Like, I'll give you for instance, from where I sit, the remote, remote school. At first, when I looked at it, I'm like, okay, we had other options, and I was okay with, again, when you're doing a budget, it's like choosing between your children. You know, what's best, what's not. And you listen to people, you listen to other, parents talk about the impact that if they could just stay within Peabody, how that would greatly benefit them, and it changed the way I thought. And I was proud that, certainly after, and again, there wasn't, I've gotten some feedback where people were like, well, where did you guys come up with this money? Well, we came up with the money really because the mayor was generous enough to contribute more money. And he heard the people as well. So, certainly like anything in life, you have a set budget, but when you hear other concerns from other walks, people in different areas, you're going to listen. We're not going to double and triple down. So we're always open to suggestion and things and anything like that. Certainly, what this spreadsheet shows, it's progress. It's not perfection. I mean, we could sit here all night and talk about the things that need to improve, but it's progress before perfection. And to me, I certainly would be in favor of some of the couple of suggestions that Dr. Vidal proposed. Certainly, the budget's fluid. Things happen during the course of a year. We've always adjusted. So, again, we could sit here and it could go on forever. Like Mr. Hockman said, now we're up against a deadline, so to speak. So we certainly, I would think with some of the adjustments that Dr. Vidal has proposed, I would be willing to we go with that. Again, it's not perfect. I hear from a bunch of people that, what about this position and that position? And I get it, but we could go on forever with that. And I could go on and back and forth with Dr. Vidal as well. But it's a compromise, and I feel like that this is the best presentation possible. I don't think if people review the spreadsheet, I think they would be surprised. I know I was a little surprised, okay, to be honest with you. Again, I'm so fixated on the here and the now, but you look back at 2019, and you look at the numbers. I mean, it's right there. The perception is different, sure. But if you look back, going back 5 years, you see how things have trended in this school district. Again, it's not perfect. This isn't a slap on the back or we're doing a wonderful job. But it is progress. It's progress before perfection. You show me anybody that's perfect, and last person I knew, they nailed to a cross. So, anyways, that's it for now. I'll yield.
Thank you, Mr. Olympio. Mrs. Dunn, then Mr. Miko.
Thank you. I wanted to return with a couple of comments. First, I would be remiss if I didn't thank the counselors who did reach out to me and talk to me prior to our budget and during the budget process, and then after the city council meeting. A lot of them did call me, and I appreciate that. And that's indicative of the fact that we do have to work together because we are one city. And that brings me to the next point. We need more money. We always need more money. I always ask you for more money, Mr. Mayor, constantly. If we had all the money that we need, we'd have a beautiful school system. We would have wonderful, wonderful outcomes and products, and it would be amazing. However, I'm realistic. And I don't mean to speak for my fellow committee members, and I never, ever speak for you, but I do know that every one of the members of this school committee, when we're discussing the budget, we are also weighing out in our head that we are one part of this city. There are police and fire and public service employees. This is a big city, a big complicated city, and we are one piece of it. Now, if we could get all the money, we would really have some great meetings, but we can't. And it's hard. And that's the unspoken part of our decision that no one knows is going through our head when we're balancing out how far to go with the school department budget. We are limited and we do the best with what we can. And this city is always known for fiscal conservative decisions. And I think we follow that too, because if we wanted to get, and I will use the word extravagant, oh God. I remember once one of the superintendents, we said, give us the budget of what we really need. He got crucified. He almost ended up on a cross. But he told us, and he told the public, what it would really cost to get everything done. No one could handle that. So what we do now is we deal with a budget that hopefully increases every year, that deals with all kinds of outside pressures and considerations about what needs to be done for the city of Peabody. I'm not happy with the budget. I want more money. And I've got a few things that I would really love to see, but I know that right now, this is a solid budget. This is good for the students in Peabody. This is good for the people of Peabody. It works for the tax base. It works in today's economy because, believe me, next year is going to be a lot worse. And there are thoughts in this budget dealing with what's coming down the pike. I hear a lot of things about the state funding and about the federal funding, and it is frightening, and it's, if it hits, people are going to see a real change. But right now, for today and for September, this is a good, decent budget. It's going to help us move forward. We're going to get to accomplish a lot, and as everyone has said, if we need to, we can go in and adjust it. The bottom line needs to stay at 99 million. That's not unreasonable. We've never had an unreasonable budget in the last 10 or 12 years. And we have made slow but steady progress. And that's what's reflected in this. And I know people aren't happy because everybody wants different things. I want different things too. Where do you see my list? It'll come tomorrow. But thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Mr. Amico?
Through the chair of the committee, thank you, Ms. Dunn. Thank you, Mr. Hockman. I'm going to be in favor of the recommendations of Superintendent Vidal. I did have a conversation with him the other day, and we talked about the Higgins cluster, and I did bring up a point, and he agreed that, yeah, we will have 50 or 60 fewer students and next year. But sometimes we get caught up in the numbers, and I know teachers back there will see this. Sometimes you get caught up in how many kids are in front of you. I made that same mistake about 10 years ago. I think I had a class of about 12 kids, and I was so excited. I said, wow, I can do so much with these kids, and they were the most difficult, challenging kids I've ever had. And I've had classes of 25, 28, 30 who, were just so easy to work with. So sometimes we get caught up with numbers, class sizes. Sometimes it's challenges within your groups. And I do think just because we, the fact that we have 60 or 70 fewer students next year, I get it, but, there are challenges, as I alluded to earlier. We don't have to go over those again. But I did want to say a couple of things in regards to our numbers here. I just looked it up. There are 195 countries in the world, and Massachusetts ranks 9th or 10th if we were our own country. 9th or 10th in the world if we were our own country. And Massachusetts educates every single kid. Some of those countries that rank in the top 5, top 7, they don't educate everyone. Depending on whether someone is, whatever, they can say no. Massachusetts educates every kid, and if we were our own country, would be at either number 9 or 10 in the world. And if Peabody is at or above average, or just slightly below average, or at average, I think we're doing a great job. So I'll leave you with that.
Thank you, Mr. Amico. Mrs. Carpenter?
Thank you. I want to start off by saying, Dr. Vidala, thank you for all of this information. It was extremely helpful. I know you spend a lot of time on the budget. I know that you confer with a lot of people on the budget. I know that the budget takes up a majority of your time, as well as the rest of the people within the school department that participate in it. A lot of the things that the committee members have said tonight, I agree with. We spend a lot of time on the budget. Some of us have been here for a long time. Budgets are hard. We do our homework. Some of us cry about decisions we have to make. We listen to a lot of people. A lot of people call. A lot of people have things to tell us. We take it into consideration. We have conversations with the superintendent who we hired to do this job, to explain to us how to make those decisions and why he makes those decisions. It's not easy. Some of you know that. Some of you don't. I'm happy to hear that you got some phone calls, Mrs. Dunn. Mr. Hockman, I'm happy to hear you got one. I didn't get any, so I didn't have any idea what any of the city councilors were thinking after they treated you that way, and I apologize for that for you. Our budget is fluid. We always say that. These recommendations that you brought to us tonight, you could bring to us in August, and we could vote on it. And I agree with Mr. Hockman. I'm not setting precedent where this is going to keep happening. It's never happened before. It shouldn't happen. But I do like the recommendations that you brought forward. So I would be in support of making those changes. I'm not in support of the process of how we got here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. Mr. Swanson, and then I wanted to make a couple comments. Mr. Swanson.
Thank you. Through you to the council. Actually, to Dr. Vidala first. Obviously, thank you for putting this information together, the presentation. I wish, I don't know if you have it, but I wish you could have shown 23 to 24 as well, because you know you did take a dip. There was a lot of work from your staff, from our educators, throughout the school. We know I'm a big proponent for our educators and those that support them. Every year we list off the top 4 students where they go to school. We list off the careers that students leaving our schools are going to. That's all on the shoulders of those that are in the buildings. I also appreciate those that reached out to me for some comments. I could tell the difference in the way they respected you, the way they presented their questions to you. They did challenge you, yes, but did it in a professional manner, and I appreciate those that did. It was very different from those that went at you, didn't have all the information, made some assumptions, didn't look into the perception. So I appreciate how you defend yourself and what you prepared for us tonight. So thank you for that. I do have one question I'm going to ask, is that if we need to move some teachers around, how fluid is that for us if you have to, for the elementary school? And I guess this is for the public, so they know as well, as we move based on your recommendations. If you have a shortage in the elementary school, I mean, like, hey, we need to move a teacher from here to here because class sizes aren't ultimately, or they grow. We know we take students in all the time. How easy is it for you to do that within the buildings?
So if it's as simple as sliding one teacher from one building to the other, we do that a lot with ELL teachers or sort of district-wide staff. That's sort of regular process. But if it was a classroom teacher, we would come before the committee and vote. The committee has the ability to do that. I wouldn't do a classroom teacher unilaterally. I would bring it to the committee. And I do believe we've done that in the past 5 years since I've been here, where we asked to add a teacher and we found a funding source for it and we were able to do that. We bring it to the committee and the committee's supportive of it.
Thank you very much. So again, we have a process around that if we have concerns throughout the school year. I also appreciate you re-looking at the 8th grade cluster. I think one of my mistakes as going through these budgets in the past is looking at the class sizes as numbers, not as Mr. Miko said. They're all different. They're different approaches, the students that are in there. Something that I will be taking a more open-eyed approach to as we go into the budget. But I will be supporting you. Again, I don't like the manner this has come back to us. I don't like this becoming a precedent. As those have said before me, I don't like the unprofessionalism that was done the other day. I think I do differentiate those in the council, those that reached out to us, had conversations with you, with us, did a good job and prepared you for their comments and allowed you to speak. But with that, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swanson. Mr. Amico, quickly? Yeah.
Through the chair, and Dr. Vidala, I know you did mention at at the city council budget meeting, we do have some open positions that we're hiring, so through the chair to through the chair, Dr. Vidala, to Mr. Swanson, I do believe that some of those positions could be new hires as well if we had to add teachers to an elementary school or a middle school or whatnot, so thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple comments I wanted to make, and I did want to say that I did hear from a number of counselors that reached out to me with questions about the budget, the four that are here today, and others that as well. I did want to mention that I did get a number of inquiries and questions asked of me about budget issues and things, so I did want to state that. And Mr. Swanson's comments, just switching gears, I think you were right, and Mr. Miko touched on it. I do sometimes, and I've made this mistake in the past, I do sometimes look at numbers as I'm trying to make my decisions, and when I heard about class sizes, I thought, okay, maybe that is an opportunity for us to look to make some tough decisions. I did learn a lot during this process. I heard from a number of teachers who really explained kind of the situation and what's taking place, and I'm very glad that that's an opportunity for us to bring that cluster back, as well as those couple of additional teachers. I think makes a lot of sense, and you know, again, I don't vote unless it's a tie, but I certainly would vote to support that. I think that is a good compromise. You know, I did see some value in the discussions that we had with the council, and I think some of those issues that were raised, I think, were given some real thought, and I like those proposed changes, and proposed recommendations. So that would certainly be something that I would support and try to make happen on our end. It is a living, breathing document. We've talked about this before. Budget is always that, where there are changes made during the course of the year. It is not set in stone. It is fluid, where there's constant changes, constant adjustments that are demanded of us by the state and others. You know, we have to adjust on the fly, and accordingly the budget has to adjust on the fly, and we have to make decisions based on that a lot of times. So, but at the moment, this is a budget that I feel very comfortable with, that addresses some of the needs that have been expressed by people and well expressed, that I think has been very helpful and enlightening to me, but also being aware of the fact that I think the next couple of years are going to be very difficult. If I'm hearing what I'm hearing, if that plays out in terms of health insurance costs and in terms of state numbers, these are going to be extremely difficult next couple of years. And, you know, I think we're taking that into account, but also investing where I think we need to as best we can, considering some of the difficulties that I've expressed at a number of meetings in the past, and I'm not going to again. But we're all elected officials, city council, school committee, and I think there's sometimes natural rivalry or disagreements in terms of decisions, but I really feel that all of us want what's best here. I think at the end of the day, we have to come together and work our way through this. We're all getting hit from different angles with different questions and people advocating for different things. And it's hard being an elected official these days, very hard. But I think as best we can, we need to be united on this. There's a lot of things in the city that we have to take up here in the next few weeks, few months, few years, that we're going to need to work on, have to work on collectively and together, because it's not going to work otherwise. So I'm ready for it. I feel the discussion we had today is a good one. I like what was presented by Dr. Vidala. That information provided today, I didn't know some of those numbers. That was very helpful to me, because I had heard from a number of people, and they raised legit questions, and I think that was very helpful to have that information today, and should help us going forward. So if there's other comments, certainly we can continue. I'd be open for a motion based on the recommendation of Dr. Vidala, if somebody would like to make that motion, or certainly I don't want to shut down to the discussion, but I'll open it back up. Mr. Amico?
Great, thank you. Through the chair to Dr. Vidala. Do you want to bring back these positions individually or by cluster? What's your preference? And what is the preference of the school committee? And what's the easiest way to bring back the recommendations of the superintendent?
I think we can do it collectively in one vote,
Okay,
as
so,
presented.
thank you. Through the chair, I'd like to make a motion to follow the recommendation of the superintendent to bring back those positions into the 2026 school committee budget. So
Second.
moved.
Okay, you've heard the motion made by Mr. Amico, seconded by Mr. Swanson. I'll open that up for discussion. Mr. Hockman?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Amico, for making that motion, and Ms. Dunn, I think, for seconding it, and Dr. Vidala for presenting it. I agree. I agree with all those changes that you're looking to make to our budget. I think it's warranted, understanding the center school population as we get closer, where the school year ended and more people have made a decision about who's returning to the center school, and the class sizes at the center school with one teacher in the second and fourth grade. It's consistent with class sizes around the district, so I'm not offended by that. I agree with the teachers that a fifth cluster in the eighth grade is warranted under the circumstances, absolutely. And numbers don't always play out, right? It's not a numbers game. I agree with the mayor's comment on that too. So with all that, and I think I'm reading the room right, so you're not gonna have to worry about this. I would, if I can recommend to you, Superintendent, proceed after tonight as if all those changes are taking place, even if this vote fails. Because I think at some point, we as a committee would take that up if this vote fails. And I'm not advocating for that. I'm just explaining my vote. And I think, Ms. Carpenter, we've been working together for 16 years. We're starting to think alike. It really is a process thing for me. It's not the substance of the changes. I agree with the substance of the changes. I also have other changes, Ms. Dunn, that I'd like to make. There are other, ideals that I set aside because I'm one of 6. It's not my school committee. It's not my school district. There are also reductions that I'd like to make, and I've been open about that too. But it's not my school committee. I'm one of 6. I don't want to keep bringing motions that are going to fail 1 to 5 for the sake of bringing motions. I'm not, I may have been that school committee member at some point in a distant life, but I'm not that school committee member now. So in any event, because of the process, because I feel that even though a vote wasn't taken, there was some usurping of authority and exceeding of the democratic process that went on last week. I can't support the motion made by Mr. Amico for my vote. In principle, I do support the changes that you're proposing and are being moved.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hockman. Also, any other comments on the motion, Mrs. Dunn?
Thank you. Before we move on, I'd like to ask if these slides could be posted on our website, because I'd like people to be able to see those so that they can understand what we were talking about tonight and what they saw on the screen. So thank you. These are very helpful. I'd also like to point out and thank everybody who has spoken out throughout the budget season. And let people understand that I do think every decision on a budget is also a policy decision. And policy and procedures is something that we will be working on all through the year. So people's voices were heard, and we will be making changes. And they do not necessarily have to take place through the budget lens, but through a different lens that we will continue to work on. So I just wanted to let people know that too. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Hockman.
No.
Mr. Olympio.
Yes.
Mr. Swanson.
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Amico.
Yes.
All right, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn the budget process for this fiscal year 25-26.
Okay. You've heard the motion by Mr. Hockman, seconded by Mrs. Dunn. All in favor of that? Thank you for our meeting tonight. I don't know yet. I'm going to have to speak to Council President Daigle and Chairman McGinn, as well as the city clerk, in terms of the schedule for the city budget, or school budget to be taken up. And we'll coordinate that, and I'll let everybody know. All right, thank you, everyone.